Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our 2025 Study Abroad Day Alumni Panel. Study Abroad Day was last week, but at CEA CAPA, we celebrate study abroad every day. So I am so pleased to be here with our alumni panelists and our director, Heather Gregg Reed. All right, let's kick it off with some introductions. Again, welcome. My name is Katie Claggett. I'm a student engagement coordinator here at CEA CAPA. I support our alumni ambassadors, and I will pass the mic to Heather Gregg Reed to introduce herself.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Gregg Reed. I'm Director of Student Engagement here at CEA CAPA. I work alongside Katie and a team of amazing colleagues. And of course, so excited to be joined by some of our fantastic alumni ambassadors to talk about their experiences abroad. Sophie, you're next to me on the screen. Can I pass it over to you to introduce yourself?
Yes. And for our panelists, please share your name, home institution, your major, and where and when you studied abroad. Thanks,
Awesome.
Sophie.
Yeah, so my name is Sophie Johnson. I'm a junior studying business marketing and management at Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama. But I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I studied and interned abroad this past fall, 2024, in Sydney, Australia.
Awesome. Natasha.
Hi, everyone. My name is Natasha, and I am a biochemistry major at Skidmore College, and I'm also a senior. I studied abroad and interned in Florence, Italy in the spring of 2024.
Amazing. Isabella.
Hi, I'm Isabella. I am a senior at Michigan State University, and I'm studying a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. I studied abroad this past summer, 2024, in Dublin, Ireland.
Awesome. Josh.
Hello, everyone. I'm Josh. I am a fourth-year biomedical engineer at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, California. I also have a minor in French, which is part of the contribution to me studying in Paris in fall 2023, where I did the engineering program with CEA.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. And last but not least, Michael.
Hey, it's Michael Puglisi here. I go to UMass Amherst. I study marketing and psychology. I was abroad in Buenos Aires, Argentina in the spring of 2024. And I did the international business program there and was a content creator.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for sharing those introductions. All right, to kick it off with our first question, love to start with emphasizing the study in study abroad. So we're going to start with a focus on sharing about a meaningful aspect of your academic experience with CEA CAPA. I'm actually going to throw this first question to Isabella to share about your academic experience.
Well, I took two classes in Dublin. So I did a cultural competence class and a child psychology class. The one thing that I really enjoyed about taking a course abroad is the professors really helped us get immersed into the culture. They did a lot of field experience for us, so we were able to visit preschools, take tours around the cities, and I feel like that enhanced my experience a lot because I got to see a different perspective on child psychology based on the regions that I'm in. So kids in America versus kids in Ireland. And then also we did have like a different way of, sorry, what am I trying to say? We did have like the Ireland's education is kind of different than America's. So there was a little bit of an adjustment there. But I mean, I had a bunch of kids in my class, students who were in the same boat. So it was kind of nice working alongside them, studying together, as well as getting to know the professors and how they grade things. So I think a good advice for other students when they're studying abroad is definitely checking out how their educational system is. And then also getting to know your professors and what they expect of you and from your classmates. Yeah.
Amazing. Such great advice, truly, because I think a lot of times students going abroad, they don't always consider, whoa, the grading scale is actually really different. And so it's great to do that research ahead of time. Thanks for that call out. I want to ask the same question to Josh. I understand that you did a thermodynamics course while you were abroad and there were some field trips involved. Can you share a little bit more about what that was like?
I did, yeah. And honestly, that was my most like threatening class, I guess I'd say, going into it. Is like, just a big name, especially here at Cal Poly, that's like known as the like weed out class. Like a lot of kids will take that and like no longer continue with their degree after that. So I was very glad that that was offered in Paris, and it wasn't too difficult to like figure out the like course transfer over, which I really wasn't sure about because sometimes it doesn't work out. But University of New Haven, which was the institution that hosted the CEA program, and my institution like work hand in hand to figure out the syllabus and how exactly it applied. So it was super smooth there. And then upon arriving, we learned that it was actually only a class of 5 students. So there's only 5 of us, and actually 4 of us were from the same place at Cal Poly. So we all kind of knew each other a little bit. So it was really just like, tight knit. The professor was very one-on-one, especially because it was such like an involved, physics, chemistry, calculus heavy course in, a study abroad environment, a new place where kids tend to be distracted. It's a little harder to just like sit down and grind for tests like you would at your home institution. So the professor overall was very accommodating and piqued our interest and kept us engaged with trips such as field trips, during a class period to the museum. I believe it's called the Museum of Arts and Materials. And that honestly didn't even encapsulate all of it because it went everything from like the first invention of electricity to like the advent of like the biplane and everything like that. So any amazing engineering or like scientific discovery was at that museum, and it was just really cool to get like a physical hands-on learning experience and go somewhere with the class all together rather than just being inside on the campus all the time. And it was also always just something to look forward to. You have your exams, which you're looking forward to in a sense, but then we also had like a field trip that everyone kind of got really excited for, and it was just like a big week, our museum field trip week. So that was really unique and really, really special.
That sounds so exciting and interesting. Thanks for sharing about that. And you did mention the University of New Haven. For anyone listening, that is the university that provides accreditation for all of our programs, and it ensures that our credits transfer, your credits that you would take transfers back into the US credits. So just for anyone listening, that was some context there. All right, to answer this final response for the academic question, I'm going to pass it to Michael to share a little bit more about what it looked like doing international business in South America.
Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people in my business school specifically about this because I transferred in late to Eisenberg, the business school here. So, I was really worried about like, falling behind and not being able to maybe advance my career being in another country. But I got a ton of support from all my professors, and it wasn't an internship, it was a regular study abroad, but I was able to get an internship for the fall of my senior year while I was abroad. So that was really fortunate to make that happen. And all my professors too, like I said, it wasn't an internship, but our field trips were all to the companies that they consulted for or worked at. So we were getting to go out, into the field and go to companies like Globant, who work with, huge companies like NVIDIA, and just kind of get an understanding of, how is business done there? Like I was kind of taken aback because in America, things are super fast paced and on time, very formal. There it was, I was getting coffee or, drinks with somebody from these companies and kind of just getting to know them and talk about, things that maybe don't come to mind like first off in business. So I really gained an appreciation for that and definitely changed my mindset and somebody that wants to go into sales, just that getting along with different personalities and speaking to people of different backgrounds and cultures, it came into play right away when I got back to, my internship over the summer. So I was able to talk to people in Spanish and I utilized a ton of skills. So I'm very fortunate. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michael. That you touched on how your experiences abroad can really be so important for building up those skills. And while we're really excited to tout our internship opportunities, that's actually a perfect transition into my next question. You make a great call out that your experience is what you make of it. And so there's plenty of opportunities for networking, for building connections, even if you don't opt for that internship opportunity. Awesome. We're going to move right along. So I mentioned internships at CEA CAPA. We're pleased to offer global personalized internship experiences in 13 global cities. And we have internship placements in over 75 career fields and industries. So let's hear a little bit about that firsthand from our alumni who lived it. So I want to ask each of our internship alumni here today to share just an overview of your internship placement, kind of like what it was, where you were, and then share some highlights relating to your own professional growth. So you can share kind of maybe what a typical day looked like, or maybe a typical week in your internship, or some lessons learned, but main things are overview of what you did and some highlights from your internship experience. I'm going to start with Natasha.
Yeah. So for me, my experience was pretty awesome because I knew that I'd always wanted to intern abroad from like a long time. And so I just told CEA CAPA that this is what I want to do. And they were very open and they said, okay, what exactly do you want to do? Because we would love to match you towards something that aligns to your interests. And I just told them randomly, I was like, I'm interested in wine and I really want to explore this. I didn't even think that that was going to happen, but they did make it happen and they found an internship for me to intern at a winery. So that was great because I got to explore different parts like the marketing side, the restaurant side of the winery, and as well as the making of the wine itself. So I really got to understand that this is what I want to do in the full run. So I would just talk about, I think the best highlight, honestly, was because it was an hour away by bus from my location. Someone from CEA CAPA actually took me there by bus and back just so I could be able to use the transportation system well, because that was like a little bit difficult like in the beginning. So they were very, very helpful with that. They also helped me get tickets for the bus and how to navigate that. So I really, really enjoyed that. I think it's very much you need to know that this is exactly what you want to do, because interning and studying, you have to be committed to both fully, right? You want to make sure that you are studying. You also want to make sure that you're getting most out of the experience of interning as well. So I would suggest that if this is something that you want, you should definitely go for it, but you should also realize that it's a full commitment to both sides of the story, but they will really try to help you, because I remember I was worried about navigating, I think, my schedule to my internship. And so I had my own schedule and it was horrible. And then someone from CEA CAPA actually said, hey, well, how about we try this? And it was actually a better schedule that was helped me to actually also have a mental day just to like kind of relax and like breathe in. So it honestly, I never felt like it was work for me, because I feel like CEA CAPA was actually really there for me. And I'm not just saying this just to like make them look good, but it's actually the truth. Like they were super helpful.
Thanks so much, Natasha. And I really appreciate that you shared how you were able to adjust your schedule in partnership with CEA CAPA, kind of looking out for you, and how cool to have that internship at the winery. Wonderful. Sophie, your turn. Please tell us all about your internship.
Yeah, so I interned for neuroblastoma Australia, which neuroblastoma is a type of cancer most commonly found in children. And so neuroblastoma Australia seeks to kind of come alongside families impacted by neuroblastoma, and then also work on research to help find treatment for neuroblastoma. So I was the event management and marketing intern for them, and I loved my experience. It really solidified for me that I'd love to work in a nonprofit after graduating. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to work on a couple different projects. Every day and every week kind of looked a little bit different. It was a hybrid format. So I would go into the office 1 or 2 days a week, and then the rest would be remote. But one of my favorite projects that I got to work on was compiling the silent auction for their Cook to Cure fundraiser event. So it was at exclusive dining restaurant in Sydney, which was awesome because I got to go to that and eat the food at the dining and at the event. And then there was a silent auction that was part of that as well. And so getting to kind of seek out different donations from places in Sydney, reaching out to them, and then also would go pick up some of those donations or have them sent to our warehouse, and then got to put all that together. So that was one of the biggest projects that I worked on. And then the other big project I worked on was kind of more towards the end, but also worked on it throughout my internship, was putting together backpacks for families of neuroblastoma in the hospital. So putting together just a bunch of different resources. They kind of compiled a long list from families with children with neuroblastoma of helpful items, whether it was a charging cable or whiteboard markers or a journal and things like that. And so getting to reach out to those companies. And then on my last day, actually within the internship, I got to put those backpacks together and see those be sent out, which is really sweet. But yeah, just so much that I can take away. Even coming back to the States last week at my university, we had a job fair with nonprofit organizations in the area. And I got to go speak to a couple of different organizations. And as soon as, they asked, tell me about yourself. And as soon as I mentioned my experience interning abroad, it was just like leaps and bounds. Like 3 of them offered me a job on the spot because of the experience interning abroad. And so seeing how that has correlated with seeking jobs post graduation has been really sweet to kind of see that all come to fruition. But interning was honestly one of my favorite parts about studying abroad.
So amazing and so meaningful. And I love that anecdote that you shared of how it's contributing to you today or just last week at that fair. And just to speak kind of a little bit more of the life cycle of doing an internship at the beginning onset when students are committing to intern, which, as Natasha mentioned, is not a decision to take lightly. You are committing to this other aspect of your experience. But each of our interns is assigned a certified career development and internship specialist that works with them, as Natasha was alluding, and Sophie as well, to make sure that where you're placed is specific and personalized for you and your interests. So just to highlight that again, and to continue with this amazing internship focus, Josh, I'm going to pass it to you to tell us all about yours.
Of course, yeah. So my situation was a little different. I honestly liked myself hearing about the CEA, direct internship programs, because I was similar to Natasha, just very set on doing an internship abroad, like doing it in another country, developing those adaptive skills in a new environment. And as I was looking into and discussing with a lot of CEA advisors, the hybrid academics internship programs, I was also looking at just internships independently, individually as their own, separate from CEA. I ended up finding one of those that was going on in the summer. So I actually ended up getting my visa a couple months early, literally the first day you possibly could. It was quite difficult, but made it work out, and actually went to Paris 2 months in advance before the CEA program started. And that's when I did my internship. So I had a full time, it was 9 to 5, 5 days a week. At a neurodegenerative research institution in Paris. So I was doing direct hands-on research, actually with mice models. So using mice to kind of model neurodegenerative conditions in humans to be able to study them, test different treatments and therapies, do imaging and all that, which was at the time way above my head. I was a second year going into a third year, and honestly, everyone else I was working with was PhDs, postdocs, all that. And they were even questioning how I got there. I think they just liked that I was an engineer from America that was, passionate about doing things in France, because it was really a lot to take on. I had to teach myself the entire neuroanatomy of humans and then mice. It was really something. But learned a lot. I even got to develop my, French, especially in a professional environment, kind of pushed me to really, be disciplined with that and learn it, not only to be able to speak with my peers, but also in the environment, at restaurants, stores. So kind of doing that, throughout the day really motivated me and helped me just live life and navigate the environment outside of that as well as just kind of keeping me in check. That was really the first time I had a strict 9 to 5 schedule, especially during the summer when I was ready to have a break. But I think similar to Isabella, or someone said, it really didn't feel like work. It really was just I was so passionate and excited to do it that it was just waking up and getting to do something I love once again in a new environment where I'm always learning, not only what I was doing in my internship, but about the culture, the people, professionality, and the language, of course. So that really helped. And I'd say the most impactful part was upon starting the CEA program in the, I guess, end of August it was, and all, the students coming in, I got to be like, hey, like I've already been here for 2 months and I've been learning the language and navigating, especially the metro. That's always the first thing that people struggle with, is kind of situating the metro and traveling. So I had some good experience and hands-on with that, and it was really nice to help people, and honestly built a lot of friendships with just being like, hey, yeah, like I'll show you how this is done. Like I found some tips and tricks to do that with. As well as just the language coming in. A lot of the CEA people were very impressed and glad that I was able to like be competent with the language and everything. And I knew that would not have been the case if I had not done that internship beforehand. So that was pretty sweet, as well as just making a small stockpile. I think I ended up making like €4 an hour or something. So that was pretty sweet and it helped out in the long run. But yeah, overall it was a wonderful experience. Highly recommend.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Josh. And just a quick follow-up question that we got. I'm going to have you just share 30-second recap as well of how was the work culture different from working in Paris versus what you've noticed of work in the US. And then Natasha, I'd love to bounce this back to you so you could speak about work culture as well in Florence. So Josh, what are your takeaways?
Absolutely. I think I'll speak to the exact experience I had at this research institution. So while it was did a little different, that it was a public institution, but was also open to like private investment. So I don't really know that whole business side, but very, developed institution, but still abided by, government ethics and government standards and all that. So while there was like strict scheduling, like I had a key card going in and out, it was very like, you have access to these parts of the research facility and not these parts, and go through all those hoops and hurdles upon doing that, in which they have very I don't know, strict in the sense, not to make it sound scary, but like step by steps that are very thought out and clear. Like any questions like that about, hey, can I try this machine, or hey, can I do this type of lab work, they're like, yes, just go through the necessary trainings, which were all open to me regardless of being a little younger and from the United States. So anything was just a little bit more paperwork, but then again just contributed to that professionality. And then also just the culture of agreement, I think, was the biggest thing for me, like agreement and accountability, in the sense of showing up to certain things at certain times, especially here in college with a lot of classes. It's definitely something I struggle with back and forth. But out there, it was really like, okay, we have these events at these times and these days you must be here for. And other than that, it's up to you to get your work done. So it was a very nice, that was actually my favorite part. It was like you would get paid my €4 an hour or whatever it was for, 8 hours a day, regardless of how long you're there. So I would, sometimes come in at 7 a.m. and stay till 8 p.m. and, really have a full research day, or sometimes I wouldn't come in until 11 a.m. or noon and get to leave at like 4 or 5. So it really just depended on the work that day. And it was just really helpful to be able to manage that on my own.
Yeah, awesome. Differences of time, of flexibility, of professional differences as well can certainly be those takeaways. Thank you so much for sharing. I do want to hear from Natasha, but Heather, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just really briefly, since Josh was talking a little bit about how his placement worked and mentioned a little bit of payment, I just like to highlight that for the most part, CEA CAPA internships are offered for academic credit. So while they are not typically paid, it's a great opportunity to receive credit that can apply back towards your degree when you come home. So it's a really great way to get some hands-on plus academic experience while you're abroad, and just wanted to add that extra context as well.
Thanks for that clarification too. Not all of our internships are $4 an hour like Josh's. That was a bit special. So thanks for clarifying the academic credit. All right, to wrap us up in terms of internships, Natasha, will you just share 1 or 2 quick reflections on how work culture was different where you interned?
Yeah, so for mine, it wasn't paid as well, but it was good to get the academic credit because it really helped me kind of get my credits more here at Skidmore. But I will say that things are a little bit different in Italy. I mean, in terms of work culture compared to here, I feel like in Italy, things are a bit more slow paced, just in the sense that they really want to take their time to like know their colleagues, talk to people, and actually that's kind of different. At least from my experience here, it's always like, you're working by the hour, so you have to work in order to like make money and actually just go through everything. Whereas in Italy, I would say that they actually really care about trying to actually know the person who's working there. And I think that really helped to build on my language skills. For example, like we were always talking with my coworkers. They would use mostly Italian, and it was my first time learning, but it really did help me a lot. And it also helped me to know where to go, like places for food, things like that. I didn't feel like there was a border between them. It was just more like, oh my God, these are my colleagues, but I can actually just talk to them about my day. And that's not something that I've gotten here in the US, at least for my experience. So I think that's just something I'm grateful for, just like the slow pace, trying to really getting to know your coworkers.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I wish we could talk about internships all night and differences in cultures, but we're going to move to the next question. Thank you all for those reflections. Thank you, Natasha, for sharing. My next question, I'm going to direct and start with Isabella. But I would love for you to share about ways that CEA CAPA staff offered support for you. So maybe this was through orientation or specific types of advice, but can you share a moment or a memory where you really felt that support from CEA CAPA?
Yeah, so I received a lot of support before flying out to my study abroad and during my study abroad. So before I was connected with the CEA CAPA staff. Her name was, I believe it was Janine, and she really helped me look for flights, housing options, any questions that I had. She was quick to answer, email me back. There was also, she scheduled a call with me to make sure that I was on time with turning in all my stuff, prepared before I leave. So that was really helpful given that I didn't have much knowledge about studying abroad or what going out of the country looked like. So there was lots of resources provided to me about that. And then also during my study abroad trip in Dublin, we had two staff, Sean and Margot. They were really great. They planned so many tours for us. They provided dinners, outings, and I felt that made it my experience really special. I mean, even going on my own excursions was really fun, but being able to have excursions provided by CA Kappa made it more meaningful because it showed they really did care about us getting the full experience abroad. They were also really nice. They provided lots of tours. They invited historians to come in and talk with us about Ireland and what that was like there. And then there's also opportunities to have one-on-one chats with them, so we can go into their office whenever we needed to, if we had any concerns, questions. They even also offered like coffee chats. So we had a cafe right across the street from the college. So we would always go over there, have like a coffee chat with them. And then they also did have like a phone that they had with them. So 24/7, they would switch off. So they had, if we ever had an emergency, we could immediately go to them, call them, if we ever needed advice.
Such a great examples you shared. Thank you, of the different resources and opportunities that are provided. And that's such a great call out of the 24/7 emergency line that is accessible to our students in case there is an emergency, to reach out to our staff and receive that much needed support. I'm going to pass this same question to Michael. And Michael, I am going to put you on the spot because I understand that you navigated some medical challenges. So feel free to share as much or as little as you would like to the panel, but would love to hear how the CA Kappa staff supported you while you navigated those challenges.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll start off like from the content creator perspective. So Maggie, one of the CEA staff there, she was a photographer as well. And, that was my role as a content creator. So she was always, recommending places to go and helping me with the prompts. And the prompts were all super helpful. But sometimes I just need a little direction from a local as to where to go or where I could really, tune in on what I was trying to get out of a certain photo set. So that was really helpful. And then yeah, in terms of medical stuff, like I'm getting over strep throat right now. I had strep throat when I was abroad. I had some back issues as well. I definitely would give the advice to everybody to, have your medical stuff taken care of, have your prescriptions and all that stuff, which I'm sure CA will recommend later on. But yeah, like the hospital system there is really it's different compared to America. Like here, I would just go to my physician or somebody to get checked out with typical stuff. But there, it's you have to go to a hospital. So they were like, go at this time because if you go after 4 or 5, everybody's out of work, and then the hospital's super crowded. So I had to go during the mornings, and it was still like a 3 hour wait or so, which is fine. But like the shots and everything are different, and I was just having them kind of walk me through the process, and that's where that WhatsApp number was super helpful, where I could just like be texting back and forth with them while in the waiting room or whatever. They even like offered to come to the hospital with me, which wasn't necessary, but it was really a nice offer. So having people that have been through that process kind of just explain it to me was made a huge difference. And so I was really grateful for that.
Thanks so much, Michael. Thank you for being vulnerable about this experience that you underwent. All right, we're going to keep moving right along to the next topic. And this one is kind of more general advice. All of you are alumni ambassadors on your campuses, so you've been giving advice to students. But for this panel, considering something that no one told you about before you went abroad, or you're like, it totally took you by surprise, but then kind of shifting that into what's the best piece of advice to give to someone? And that can be specific to your location, or it can be more general. So best piece of advice, elevator pitch, minute tops. Let's see. Does anybody feel like they have a best piece of advice to share? Does anybody want to go first? Thinking Sophie. Okay, go for it.
I can go first. I think the best piece of advice I could give to anyone considering studying abroad would be to make wherever it is that you're studying abroad your home. This will look different for everyone, but I think there can often be this like expectation that like you need to go out, do as much as you can, do everything you can, which is definitely you should seize the opportunities and do as much as you can. But you also should remember that even if it's couple months. So for me, I was in Sydney for about 3.5 months. This was my home for 3.5 months. And so putting pictures up with my family and friends that I was going to miss was sweet. Finding the same ways that I rested and would spend a Saturday at home doing those similar things when I was abroad. So going on long walks by the botanical gardens, getting to meet locals at the coffee shop, going to the local farmers market on Saturday mornings, going to the beach and taking a nap, finding those ways to rest. So I would just say make wherever it is that you're going to study abroad your home.
Beautiful. Couldn't have said it better. Josh, go for it.
I was honestly going to say something right along those lines, which is just the unexpected part of like upon arriving. I was fully expecting that. Like I love, the French culture and the language. So I was so ready to be immersed in that. And then upon arriving, especially somewhere like Paris, where so many people coming and going, and I have a lot of friends like nearby studying abroad in other European countries, all I could feel was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go visit this place and go visit this other country. And like looking up the flights and trains, like, unimaginably cheap and accessible, especially just compared to the United States. So it was like battling that back and forth, push and pull of like, I want to go visit and it's so cheap, I'm not going to have this opportunity. But same on the flip side of like, I am where I am right now in Paris, I'm not going to have this opportunity to live here ever again. So it really was just like, I don't even want to say balance because there is no right like equation or number to how many times you travel versus how long you stay back. But just kind of echoing what Sophie said, like making it your home, like really understanding that like you chose there, you're there, you have like a permanent place to stay for the time being. and like finding those, maybe top 2 or 3 favorite destinations or like events that either some other friends are going on or like you just can't miss, and then kind of like reserving those rest of that time to be with your program, to be with your your other students at your home country or city, and just doing that and really discovering it, being uncomfortable, putting yourself in new situations within that city, because even after 3-4 months of being there and having all that time and that understanding, I still feel like there's so much I could have done and so much I could still experience and learn if I went back. So yeah, really handy.
Thank you so much for sharing. I so agree that studying abroad or just being abroad can help you realize how much about the world that you actually don't know. There's still so much learning to explore. Great call out. So I want to just switch a little bit. This advice, we can continue in advice. If you all think of an advice later, feel welcome to like come back to it. But I want to kind of share maybe about a challenge that you encountered. We've heard a little bit here and there, or like, oh, this happened, but would love if anybody feels passionately to speak about a challenge that you face, and especially how you overcame it. So it can be personal, academic, social, emotional, a challenge, and how you faced it. Natasha, can I hand the mic to you to share?
Yeah. So for me, I had like a dental issue whilst I was in Florence, where like I think my wisdom tooth was like growing the wrong way or whatever. And so I really didn't know how to go about it because, at the beginning, of course, like they give you all the resources that you need, but then you don't take them all into your mind at one go. So I kind of stayed with the tooth like for a minute. I was like, oh, I'll just come back in the US and get it over with. But then it started to really get painful. And I actually asked someone from the office about, can I use the insurance that I have to go to a doctor? And they were like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. This is how you do it. And I was just like laughing at myself that, oh my God, I was in pain literally for a week when somebody was actually there to help me out with it. So basically, I mean, of course, like there's the language barrier as well. Like it can be difficult, of course, but I think if you just talk to someone from CA CAPA, and then they will probably have someone who can just accompany you to go. But luckily, they actually directed me to an English-speaking doctor because they knew they had a list of doctors that they had who speak English already, so that I wouldn't face that problem. So it's almost like they apprehend your problems before you even like think that you're going to have them, and then it just goes well. So now, yeah, painless too. That was like living my best life in Florence after that. So just ask, even if you think that you're not gonna get any help. The only reason why I think I assumed that they wouldn't be able to help with my dental issue is because at Skidmore, like they were never able to do it. So I was just like, oh, it must be the same thing. But actually, CA CAPA was able to help me navigate that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that experience. And I'm sorry that the wisdom tooth was not on board for Florence, but that you were able to find that solution and get that support. And I think it's a really good call out as well, Natasha, about expectations. I think that students might have this perception of like, oh, I won't have this service, or this will not be possible. But unless you ask, or I've also heard advice from alumni in the past, really pay attention in those pre-departure orientations or orientations when you arrive on site, so that way you know thoroughly all of the resources and support that are available to you. So thank you for contextualizing that for us. We'll take one more account from an ambassador about the challenge that you faced and how you overcame it. Michael, your hand is raised.
Yeah, so I was thinking before about your question as to, advice, and I also kind of can play that into this challenge here where I really would give the advice to take advantage of what your location specifically has to offer you. So like for Buenos Aires, that's like first couple things that come to mind. It's like I can go get a steak for like $8 at any restaurant and like have like some of the best meals of my life, or go out until, absurd hours in the morning. And it's almost like mom advice that I would have, to, like, just take care of yourself. It sounds like really simple, but like eat your vegetables, eat your fruit, get good sleep, go to class, do like, the things to take care of yourself. And I know even that might just be walking through like the botanical garden someday, or reading a book like I love to read. Or just, maybe having a lazy day where you and your friends just like watch a movie or chill out. Because you have big stuff going on over the weekend where you're traveling, or maybe you're traveling and you don't want to go on a bar crawl or something like that because you're going to climb a mountain the next day. Like, it's kind of, you have to take responsibility to really care for yourself. And obviously a lot of the students know how to do that through their academic experience, but I would say, yeah, take care of yourself, because when the world is literally at your fingertips, and there's abundance of all new sorts and new experiences that seem really enticing, and a lot of them are fun, and you should take advantage of them. Like I said, that's the advice I would give. But the challenge of that too is just try to take care of yourself as best as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Heather and I are both moms, and we approve of this message. So, wonderful. So, moving right along, this has been such a wonderful conversation already. And we did get a question from the audience. We've gotten a couple, we've been filtering them as we go. But I want to really emphasize this one because it's something that's really important for all of us at CEA CAPA to have students, no matter how they identify, different types of identities, to feel empowered and prepared before going abroad. And someone has asked in the audience, how did your identities impact your experience abroad? And so, some of our prospective students who are watching this panel, they might not know exactly the right question to ask, or maybe they have a thought that they might not feel fully comfortable to ask. But I would really appreciate to take this time to hear from any ambassador an alum who's willing to share about how your identity or a specific aspect of your identity impacted your experience abroad. So I won't call on any of you. I want you to just feel empowered to share anything that you're willing to share.
I could start from more just like a general sense, just because I get asked about it a lot with going to France, and their perceptions of Americans in general, and just kind of saying that you're from America, or a lot of students, when you first arrive, it's just kind of obvious for some, just like the way you dress and interact and look confused. It's just kind of inherent to going anywhere. But the French really do look out for it. That part is correct, but not in the sense that they're like out to get you. So I think that was part of it. Is like everyone kind of arrives thinking that, and it's not necessarily afraid, because you're confident enough and excited enough that you chose to go there, but it's always something in the back of everyone's minds. And I definitely learned that like it's up to you to kind of decide how you want to portray yourself in that way, and like how you want to choose to associate or dissociate, or not even think about those stereotypes of. I think the biggest ones that come to mind that I think about Americans are just like being loud and not really like being considerate of the rules, or hygiene in public spaces, things like that. Which, from my experience, especially the other students I studied abroad with, it's not at all true. Like you take it upon yourself to just kind of be respectful of your surroundings in public. Keep things clean up after yourself, which are all things that we carry over from the United States back home too. Like I do those things within my home institution, as do many of my peers. So I think it's just like applying that to a new place and just being ready to adapt and have that maybe look different than you would here. Not exactly in as many new places every day as you will be when you're abroad, or meeting as many new people. So it's kind of just having that mindset that like you don't have any idea what it's going to be like, and keeping to those core values of like, okay, like I'm going to be respectful, like maybe just speak slowly, and like ask questions if you're unsure. Never be too afraid to do that, to ask questions when you don't know what's right. I think that's one thing too, that again, Americans are going to France, you really don't know, and that's okay. It's just like you're realizing you're in the same boat as everyone else who also doesn't know, and that it's all right to just be confused and be lost together, and just asking those questions and kind of figuring it out as you go. And it really didn't take too long. Like after a couple of weeks of being with all the other students, and especially advice from the CEA staff, you really do get like a feel for things. You start growing that confidence, and finding your place, and learning how to be quiet and peaceful and respectful, but still having a lot of fun. So just with that, yeah.
Thank you so much, Josh. Very, very wise of you. And I think a takeaway from that is my thought just ran out of my head in a moment. It'll come back to me. Would anybody else like to share about identity and how it impacted your experience abroad?
I'll speak more from like a cultural perspective where it's like, I mean, I'm not American, but I feel like I do identify with the American culture a lot, where it's like, when you meet people for the very first time, you're not just jumping in to hug them, give them a little kiss. And I feel like in Italy, that's kind of normal, where it's like, oh my God, like I don't know you, but you're amazing. And like, with the American perspective, you're kind of like, you want to hold back a little bit. And I feel like you might be uncomfortable like from the get-go. And if you are, I think it's just okay, honestly, to just kind of speak up about it that like, hey, like, I don't want to do this. But then at the end of the day, you should also realize that they are not coming from like a bad place. That's just how they're used to doing things. So I think it's like just also understanding that they are not there to like attack you or make you feel uncomfortable in any way. But if in any case, that's just getting to you and you're just not vibing with it at all, I think it's okay to just like obviously like talk about it. Some people are very open-minded because they are very curious, I think, and fascinated by Americans. So they want to know, they want to hear actually what you have to say. So the more you're able to speak, the more they are also able to learn your perspective too.
100%. Good, great kind of reflection there on like personal space, or especially greeting and saying goodbye, how those customs can be different. And that you actually jogged my brain, Natasha, of what I was going to say of with Josh, your comment, those moments where you may feel uncomfortable or you're maybe in a surprising moment of a conversation, really to stay humble and take it as a moment to learn. And that is really kind of how deep, beautiful learning can happen through CEA CAPA experiences. All right. Just want to float one more moment out there. If anybody is interested to share about identity, Michael, go for it.
Yeah, something that was definitely difficult for me was my lack of Spanish skills. I hadn't spoken Spanish since probably high school. And, my roommate had just gotten back from Sevilla, Spain. So he was, able to have a lot of the conversations that I wasn't able to. And that was frustrating, right? Like compared to Europe, like a lot of South Americans don't speak English. And that was difficult to kind of, put myself out there, be embarrassed and be, vulnerable and kind of just, I don't know. I kind of just kind of stepped back and was able to kind of laugh at myself, right? Like take chances in Ubers, order stuff at the bar or at the restaurant in Spanish and just kind of take those chances. And I feel like too, I like one of the main takeaways that I had from my experience was just, how much people just want to get you involved in their fun, like South Americans and Argentines, and just want you to be like a part of the experience that they're having and the fun that they're having. So like, don't be afraid to laugh at yourself and take chances. That's yeah, kind of my advice there.
100%. I think it's so wonderful to explore what fun looks like in different parts of the world. So thank you for sharing that, Michael. And I think that you all beautifully shared about how identity can be often visual and visible, but oftentimes not. So maybe relating to language skills, nationality, or even personality. So feeling, as Natasha was mentioning, I'm not as comfortable with getting so close to people like in a physical sense. So I think that these are more nuanced conversations, and it's really wonderful to hear your reflections on this. All right. I'm actually going to pass the mic to Heather and see if there's any other burning questions. We're getting closer to our time, so I think maybe one more great wrap-up question, Heather. Can I pass the mic to you?
Yeah, sure. So another question that came in that I think is a great way to kind of end on is wanting to learn more about how you found out about study abroad. I know every campus is a little different, so study abroad may be a big part of the culture on your campus, or it may be something that not many students were doing and you sort of took the leap and did it. But I'm going to tack on my own question to the end of that and say, What led you to the program you chose, and why was it the right fit for you?
I'm gonna start with Isabella, if that's cool.
Yeah, so I actually found about my study abroad program by actually like researching it up on my school's study abroad program website. So they had I'm specifically interested in working with children, and my major was psychology. So child psychology was like the perfect fit. So the CEA CAPA child psychology program came up, and I took a look at it, and I actually saw this a little bit later than I expected to. So I had 2 weeks to submit my application. So I was like, I really want to go and study abroad. Like, I am going to get this done. Like, I'm putting everything aside and I'm prioritizing this. So I worked on my application and got everything submitted. But yeah, I found out through the study abroad website. I thought this program was the perfect fit for me because, like I said, I wanted to work with children. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do as an actual career. I knew I wanted to work with children and I love psychology. So studying abroad really helped me figure out what I wanted to do with my career, which I ended up now wanting to pursue a master's degree in social work. So yeah. But yeah, there's something else I wanted to add too. Oh, this was the right fit for me because I have never been out the country before. So when I saw it was a summer program and it was only a month long, I was like, I think this is like the perfect amount of time for me to explore a different country and see if it's something I would want to do in the future, traveling. And I thought it was the perfect amount of time to explore abroad.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, and that's so exciting about your next academic steps. We're all cheering you on. Can I pass the mic to Sophie? Can you share about how you chose, how you found out about study abroad and why the program you chose was the right fit?
Yeah, of course. So study abroad is pretty big at my university, but the majority of students will study abroad through Sanford, my university. We have property in London, and so a lot of students will do that if they're looking to study abroad for a semester. And it's something I considered, but ultimately I have always wanted to go to Australia and I've always wanted to go to Sydney. And so I kind of felt like what better time to do it than right now. And knowing that I would be able to be there for a semester and get totally immersed was really exciting for me. So I met with my study abroad office, and they kind of told me a couple different options and routes that I could go. But CEA CAPA stood out to me the most, especially with wanting an internship, because in order to kind of get the credits worked out, an internship was a requirement for me. And so that was one of the reasons why I chose CEA CAPA. And it was a fantastic fit. Sydney, especially, I love the active lifestyle, loved the work-life balance, loved just the amount of things that there were to do in Sydney of such variety. I knew that I would want to go on hikes on the weekend and go to markets, go to coffee shops. And so knowing that all of that was there while also being in a city was really exciting to me. So that's a little bit about how I heard about study abroad in Sydney.
Thank you so much. And you really touched on a great, important advice, which is communication, especially for folks who are preparing to study abroad, or even thinking about it. And they're like, go talk to folks on your campus, talk to our alumni, just start to get information sooner rather than later, so that way you can find the best program that's best for you. Folks, we're getting to the end of our time. I'm so sad that we have to wrap up, but we're going to do one final round the room, and I would really appreciate you all to share, there's a limitation, one sentence about what you would say to a person who is on the fence to study abroad. If you had like 10 to 20 seconds with them, try and keep it to one sentence. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about that. And then that'll be our final question for this evening, afternoon. Okay. Does anyone want to start us off? So I'm on the fence about studying abroad. What would you say?
I would say take the step outside your comfort zone, even if it is something that feels uncomfortable.
Beautiful.
I think I
Michael?
would challenge them and say, you know, what are you going to continue to learn, or how are you going to continue to grow if you're in your current element compared to somewhere else?
I would mention that for the most cases, you really only get one undergraduate career, and that opportunities to study abroad only get less and less after that. So take these while they're here.
I would say it's a good excuse to travel while studying.
I'd say going out of your comfort zone leads to lots of growth within yourself.
Heather, I don't want you to miss out on the fun. What's your one sentence?
Oh, always. I'm going to follow the train of thought that Isabella laid for me and say that international education has the power to change your personal and professional trajectory. Do it. And there was a semicolon in there somewhere, Katie, so it was still one sentence.
All right, I accept. Wonderful. Thank you so much to our panelists for sharing such wonderful advice, for your time, for your reflections. Thank you to Heather for helping to moderate this panel with me tonight. As I mentioned, we are going to share out our recording and share the questions. So thank you to everyone who's tuned in live, but thank you also if you're watching this recording after the fact. I hope everyone has a great evening, and we look forward to interacting with you all in the future. Thank you so much, everyone.